Hello and welcome back to Zekism Gaming. And so, the Baldur's Gate 3 studio boss Sven Vinker has put the cat amongst the pigeons over the weekend, writing a sort of a long tweet transcript thing, basically calling out critics or sort of advocating for critics to be scored or to be registered or whatever he's recommending. We'll get into it. Which, you know, we've all got thoughts about, and so we take it at face value. Is the article here. Baldur's Gate 3 studio boss calls out hurtful personal video game reviewers. Sometimes I think it would be a good idea for critics to be scored, Metacritic style. Ooh, then that's exploded certain outlets, and no, we'll get the background. Baldur's Gate 3 was actually a game that was really, I thought, well reviewed, like quite well reviewed actually when it first came out around, was it 2024? And it was really good. It was a really good game, so it deserved to be praised as much. But so it's surprising to see him go sort of not after critics, but sort of advocate for a critic, which, you know, in certain walks of life wouldn't be the worst thing. We'll see what he said anyway. Fresh from the trenches of the Divinity generative AI debate, Larian CEO Sven Vinker has taken to the Twitterverse with some moderately spicy thoughts on video game critics and reviewers. Broadly, he feels that we need to work harder to be critical without being hurtful. He also suggests the industry could do with a Metacritic style system for evaluating and scoring reviewers to encourage a bit more restraint so that sensitive creatures don't lose their idealism and love of players. Picture me over here, huffing and snorting. This is sort of an editorial he goes into. We'll read the actual transcript. I don't like people shitting on things others have created. Putting something out into the world makes you vulnerable, and that alone deserves respect, even if you dislike the creation. It's easy to destroy things. It's a lot harder to build them. The best critics understand this, even when they're being critical. They do their best, not to be hurtful. Sometimes I think it would be a good idea for critics to be scored, Metacritic style, based on how others evaluate their criticism. I like to imagine it would encourage a bit more restraint. The harsh words would do real damage. You shouldn't have to grow callous on your soul just because you want to publish something. There's plenty of games I genuinely don't like playing, and there are many I know are made for the wrong reasons. However, it's incredibly rare for one to be made with, out there being someone behind it that truly cared about what they are making, putting a part of themselves in it. One of the best reviewers I ever knew refused to review games he considered failures. He believed that developers deserve the chance to try again. He knew that every failed attempt could be what enabled the next great one. I know this because I was one of the developers that failed, and he only told me many years later. So yeah, be nice to people that create things is what I'm trying to say. You need them. And yes, I get that if people are charging money, you want to know if it's good or not, but reviewers can just say, I didn't enjoy it, or I don't think it's well made, or I don't think it's worth the money they are charging. That's enough. No need to get personal for the sake of some likes, or headlines if you're press. Going to step down from my soapbox now. It's been on my mind for a while, and just opening my feed today just pushed it all to the surface. Think of the time you had to recite something in front of the class and how nervous you were, and how much any negative comment hurt. Be nice to one another, be nice to the people creating stuff to entertain you, treat them like you would like to be treated if you made something. Consider it a strategic investment in the quality of your future entertainment. You won't regret it. So we'll pause for a second whilst we analyse what he said. So there's a lot there that I think everyone can really agree with, I think, in the end. So I'm surprised it's sort of blown up the way it has. But if we take what Sven Vinker says, which is basically, you know, I think, well, reading between the lines, I think he's saying be objective in your reviews. I'll give one example, and this isn't Baldur's Gate. Remember Hogwarts Legacy? Many critical outlets refused to review the game. Just flat out refused to review the game because of their feelings about J.K. Rowling and other such like. And that game went on to do gangbusters. And from all accounts, and I've seen some of the audience scores, most people really enjoyed that game. Me being one of them, I never actually got to finish it. I think I played like 10 hours, really liked it, but never got back to it. So that's an example of, I guess, criticism dictating what should or shouldn't be worthy enough for. So yeah, I think in that regard, that's an example, I think, where he's speaking facts here. He's saying, well, you know, the world doesn't. Well, the world needs criticism. Look, if you create something and I know this from my day-to-day job. If you create something, it's very personal. If you create something, it's you doing your best and saying, look, this is what I think is fun. This is what, you know, in a gaming capacity. And so when someone's reviewing it and saying, oh, it's, you know, it's not been worth its salt, it's not worth the money, blah blah blah. Understandably, that's gonna, you know, but you can't then say critics can't exist. And the advocacy of having some Metacritic style critic review panel, ultimately you've got to make that foolproof and neutral, if possible, with some governing body, I'd imagine, or something. I mean, you could argue, you know, Rotten Tomatoes at the moment is one that's been very suspectly friendly leaning towards filmmakers, shall we say, and very incentivized to give positive reviews to films and TV shows for sort of, you know, access for critics to certain events or certain A-listers, whatever you want to call it. But so I think what he's advocating for is probably, you know, one that everyone can agree with. Maybe just not the method and what she's requiring it for. But then again, if you're going to have critics in life, which you are, if you're going to put yourself out there or put a product you've made out there for criticism, you've got to have your critics, as they say, the old phrase. You've got to have your critics, because, you know, it's. But also, the other thing about critics when it comes to media or entertainment, even so, film and TV and gaming critics, is, I mean, ultimately you're not making it for critics. Yes, they might have an impact or an effect on the overall audience, but I think it's widely acknowledged now that critics don't really have much of an effect at all anymore. People don't really trust them anyway due to natures of bias, or so it's an interesting point. I think, you know, like I said, I think critics have a purpose. I mean, look, I'm an idiot with a YouTube channel who does give his opinion and his thoughts and stuff, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite here. But at the same time, if someone told me that I had to join sort of a Metacritic style thing to give my opinion, then maybe I would do it. I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to have people accountable for their words, rather than just being able to, like I said, for political reasons, not like Hogwarts Legacy, for no reason whatsoever. Or maybe, you know, a film or TV show that maybe doesn't you know, preach a certain message without going into many things. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This is my first video for a while, so I'm looking to get back to making stuff for the channel. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, listening, subscribing, and I'll speak to you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.